What is up, everybody? We are a couple weeks away from the NFL draft, and what better video to do right now than talk about the top wide receiver prospects in this year's draft? And it is loaded this year. Tyler, who do you have at number one?
I mean, I feel like this is obvious. Like, we need to talk about the greatest wide receiver prospect of all time. And Jett, I quite frankly think this is more clear than Caleb Williams at number one for quarterbacks. Marvin Harrison is far and away the best wide receiver prospect in this draft. It is not even close. He's 6'4". He has elite change of direction, elite speed, elite hand. He has everything you need in a wide receiver. He's the most perfect wide receiver prospect I've ever seen. I can't even draw an NFL comparison to him because I genuinely think he's going to come in and be automatically a top 5, top 7 wide receiver in the NFL his rookie year, which is absolutely insane. Whatever team gets Marvin Harrison is getting an absolute gem, and you just hope he's going to a team that has a competent quarterback that can get him the football because he's going to be absolutely dynamic to watch in the NFL this year, and it's going to be super exciting. I really don't see many weaknesses in Marvin Harrison's game. I know he kind of plateaued a little bit this season, like from his year before, which is, you don't love to see, but he was still putting up absolutely insane numbers. And I think a lot of that has to do with the quarterback situation at Ohio State not being as great as it was the year before. And he kind of struggled due to that. But still, he was the Blinkoff winner. He was the best wide receiver in college football, not even close. And that's all that needs to be said about Marvin Harrison. He's an unbelievable prospect, and there's nobody like him. We've never seen a talent like him come into the NFL, and I think he could be the number one pick if a team didn't need a quarterback.
Yeah, it's really hard to disagree with that. Certainly one of the best wide receiver prospects of all time. He's been compared to the likes of Calvin Johnson, who's obviously considered one of the best wide receivers of all time. So I think that you hit the nail on the head right there. Perfect. But moving on to number two, we got Malik Neighbors out of LSU, and he's widely considered to be the best route runner in this draft. And he had amazing numbers this past year at LSU, putting up 1,500 yards and 14 touchdowns. Just incredible. Of course, he had Jaden Daniels throwing him to the ball, and he had Brian Thomas across from him, eating up some of those numbers. So he really, he had a cap on his numbers, and he still put up, video game numbers, which is just incredible. And I definitely could see him falling around 5 to the Chargers. The Chargers definitely need a wide receiver. Keenan Allen is gone. Mike Williams is gone. So I think they will have to take a serious look at Neighbors at 5. And, he's a freak athlete, amazing route runner, amazing production. You can't go wrong.
Everything you said about Malik Neighbors there, and that leads me into our number three, which is someone who has risen across the draft boards as a wide receiver, especially after his run with Washington. It's going to be Rome Odunze, who has an amazing frame. He creates that separation very easily. He's an acrobat. He's got all the things you want on a deep ball threat. He gives reminiscence of Mike Williams, and honestly, he's just very reliable. He's one of those guys that you know what you're getting when you're taking him in the draft. He has a very, very high floor. He's a very safe pick. I see him, being in the top 10, maybe even the top 8. 1,600 yards last year, 13 touchdowns. He had one of the best passing quarterbacks, Michael Penix, there with him. And honestly, he was one of those guys who just got force-fed. And I'm not sure if that's the offense that he's going to come into right away in the NFL. And it honestly raises some concerns if maybe had to take a backseat role if he was drafted maybe by the Bears and they wanted to keep him at wide receiver 3 to start off. But that's the only really big concerns I have with him. He has a little bit of lack of speed, but I don't think that's going to be a problem the way that NFL teams use him. He's a guy that will go up and get it. Mr. Reliable. He destroys the zone defense. I think he's going to work on his explosiveness, get a little more speed once he reaches that NFL team. But I think he's a surefire top 10 pick.
Okay, yeah, I mean, Rome Odunze, amazing athlete. And now with 4, we're going to talk about another incredible athlete, and that is Brian Thomas Jr. out of LSU. I mean, he ran a 4.33 40 at 6'3", which is an absolute ridiculous blend of size and speed. It's something that you don't get very often. And not only is he fast and is he tall, he was open 74 of his 87 targets at LSU, which is interesting because he's been compared to DK Metcalf. He's been compared to Martavis Bryant, which are more of jump ball guys. And I actually disagree with those NFL comparisons. If he was open all but 13 targets in college football. That means he's a great route runner and he's creating unbelievable separation. And that's definitely an underrated attribute of Brian Thomas Jr. And as Jett mentioned earlier with Malik Neighbors having Brian Thomas to eat up yards and touchdowns, Brian Thomas had Malik Neighbors to eat up yards and touchdowns. And Brian Thomas still led the NCAA in touchdowns, which is something that obviously you want in the NFL. And he has it all. I mean, jump ball guy, great separation, route runner. Brian Thomas has risen substantially ever since that 4.33 40, and I feel like he should be a top 15 pick in this draft.
Yeah, I like that. Honestly, I agree. Both LSU wide receivers are incredible, and with both of them eating into each other's numbers, some cannibalism there. It's really incredible that they both had the seasons that they did, and combined they had 31 touchdowns. That's just unreal. And they're
Insane.
both crazy athletes too. They're both, whoever picks them is getting some amazing players, 100%. But at number 5, probably our most controversial pick again, we got Troy Franklin. Incredible production in his senior year at Oregon, or junior year, my mistake. Lots of touchdowns, 14 touchdowns. And he did this all with Tez Johnson. He was 12th in the FBS in receiving yards. Like, nobody else had another guy this close eaten up. The closest was Malik having Brian Thomas at 13. So, Troy had that going on, and in spite of that, he was able to put up amazing numbers. He's a good athlete, ran a 4.41. He's 6'3", and I think I could see him potentially going towards the end of the first round to a team like the Kansas City Chiefs. There's the whole Rashee Rice situation unfolding right now, and they're definitely going to need another wide receiver. Their wide receiving room, even with Rashee last year, was really bad. So I think the Chiefs will definitely take a long look at Troy Franklin. And, Troy's a player that reminds me, I'd say, a lot of like Chris Olave. He's not elite at any one thing, but he's good at getting open, and he has always had good production numbers. That's the best player comp I can give for him. But, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Troy Franklin's an unbelievable playmaker. He makes these crazy long plays. He had a lot of long touchdowns, it felt like, at Oregon, which is really dynamic. And with the Zay Flowers situation in Baltimore and the Rashee Rice situation in Kansas City, both of those teams at the back end of the first round are likely to pick a receiver. And if you give either of those elite quarterbacks a talent like Troy Franklin, it could be a really productive rookie year for him.
Absolutely.
I think one more team that could look out for him as well is the Buffalo Bills.
Oh yeah,
Bills just lost
absolutely.
all their guys, so they're looking for their new number 1. Troy Franklin would fit perfect there, so I wouldn't be surprised if they took wide receiver as well.
Yeah, that's definitely.
We will see here at the end of April, but before then, we will have plenty of more NFL draft coverage for you. Stay tuned. We got some special stuff coming your way, and peace out, everybody.